I didn't raise my voice when the lock turned, not even when my son shivered against me, his skin hot with fever and his breathing thin and uneven. Silence was the only shield I had left, so I held it tightly, sharpening it into resolve. I listened to Daniel's steps fade down the hall. He didn't glance back. He didn't have to. He was convinced he'd already broken me. He couldn't have been more wrong. When I first met him, he treated me like I was something rare. He kissed my hands as if they were made of fragile glass. He remembered small things, my favorite color, the pattern on the scarf I wore the day we met. He stayed awake beside me during storms because thunder made my heart race. I didn't realize then that some men only mimic affection until they're sure you're tied to them, until escape becomes complicated. I didn't recognize the rot beneath his perfect gestures. But sooner or later, decay rises to the surface. The betrayal revealed itself slowly. Nights when he walked in smelling of a perfume I didn't own. Business trips that were never real. A second phone he guarded as though it held the key to a vault. He kept it under his pillow at night, as if my touch could blow apart his carefully stacked deceptions. I didn't confront him. Not when I saw hotel bills with dates that matched his meetings. Not when I found the photographs. A woman with golden hair nestled at his side, laughing as if she belonged to him. My heart split quietly that night, but instead of falling apart, I made a choice. I wouldn't weep. I would prepare. People confuse quiet for surrender, but calm is where precision is born. I gathered evidence, dates, messages, calls, receipts. I learned the laws he assumed I was too naive to understand. I visited attorneys without trembling, as if I were planning a simple errand. I waited for the moment when he would hand me the final proof I needed to dismantle everything he thought was indestructible. It arrived wrapped in cruelty. The night he locked us in the storage room, our son's fever had already begun to climb. Daniel panicked, not for the child in my arms, but for the flight he was desperate not to miss. "Don't touch my phone," he barked while shoving clothes into his suitcase. "And stay here. You'll manage." Then he pushed us into the dark and locked the door. That was the moment the last illusion of him died. I whispered to my son, "I'm here," though inside, something colder and sharper settled in my chest. This wasn't a marriage anymore. This was a battlefield. Hours crawled by before it cracked and the door burst open. Light rushed in, and Daniel's father appeared, horrified by what he saw. Me sitting on the floor, our burning son limp against me. "Come with me," he said softly. "There's been an incident with Daniel." "What happened?" My voice was barely audible. "He collapsed at the airport. They found narcotics in his luggage. The police have detained him." Daniel, who prided himself on control, now reduced to a man held at the mercy of his own recklessness. I didn't react. I simply passed by his father and carried my child to the car. My plan had only just begun. At the hospital, while my son was treated, I completed the last steps. I delivered every piece of evidence to my lawyers, filed emergency custody papers, froze the accounts he thought I didn't know how to access, sent the security footage of him dragging me toward that room, our son crying helplessly, to my attorney. Each action clicked together like pieces locking into a blade. By the time he called from the detention center, his voice strained through static and fear. Everything was already decided. "Please," he begged, "help me. You know I'd never harm you." A smile tugged at my lips, without warmth. "You already have." When I visited him, he looked diminished, like someone watching the walls of a fortress he built with arrogance finally crumble. "You did this to me," he hissed. "No," I answered softly. "You gave me every tool." I slid a folder across the table. Documents, evidence, custody papers. His eyes widened as he finally understood. "You're leaving me," he whispered, stunned that I was capable of doing what he always believed I wouldn't. "I'm freeing myself," I said, "and I've already won." His father stood behind me silently. He didn't need to speak. The air itself felt like the ruins of a fallen kingdom. A few days later, when the judge granted me full custody, I didn't cheer. I sat outside the hospital with my son, sleeping peacefully on my chest, his fever broken at last. I felt clean, steady, as if I'd stepped out of a long storm and discovered I had never needed refuge. I had become the storm. People think revenge is rage, but it's not. Revenge is clarity. The moment you finally see the truth behind the lies you once defended. Daniel tried to bury me in darkness. Instead, he handed me the very light that showed me the way out. And I didn't just leave. I rose.